Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's such a gorgeous film. It's so quirky and clever and warm and human and messy. So like it's a really
Seems like my portrait, my dream portrait. What is Corky? What does Corky
like
say?
quirky,
I
like
mean,
it's kind of strange. It's kind of funny.
mm,
It's you know
mm,
like like the characters are so well drawn. Like Jodie Foster, she's not fundamentally overtly likable or kind. Like she has all these kind of
mm.
messy elements to her, and I love a good strong female protagonist. So, but before we get into the film, I was wondering if you could just take me through your journey as a filmmaker and, how you were brought into this world because you've created some like very strong, very like feminist works, if I if that's okay.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know if I did such a feminist works. It's just that I really feel we have to be loyal to female characters as well as male characters. That would be feminist as well, not to portray and depict men the way sometimes they want us to see them, and sometimes it's difficult to still like them, as you see what I mean. But yeah, I've been, driven to this to the filmmaking through literature. Actually, I'm part of a generation for whom being a filmmaker was not possible, or even like I didn't have that many representations of a female film director. And eventually, like there were some, especially in France, Noémie Lvovsky, Claire Denis, Yolande Zoberman. There were like amazing film directors, but not that many. And I did La Fémis, which is a film school, because I needed to meet, other people in this film industry, which is difficult when you know no one. And this is like a collegial work. And then wrote a script, and this script became my first film. So the production system in France is really um, connected to the scripts and the writing. And as a female writer, you may have chances to become a director after. That's why Céline Sciamma, Julia Ducournau, and I come from the same department, which is writing department in La
And,
Fémis.
and that was Dear Prudence, and I was and it
Yeah.
did so well and just really made such a big mark in making that film.
A film where I really wanted Jodie Foster to play the mother of Lia Seydoux. You may not know that, but I've been obsessed with Jodie Foster since day one. I'm just going to do that because I'm hearing myself, which is like too much. And I'm like, I'm fed up with myself. It's like when I have two earrings of me, it's like, it's too much. It's one. Um, yes, I really wanted, like, I remember that I really, really wanted Jodie Foster. I knew for a long time that Jodie would speak French. And I'm sorry to jump in like right away to Jodie Foster. Maybe you wanted to have like
Yeah.
a longer talk, but Lia Seydoux was not famous at all at this moment. It was one of her first part, maybe one of her, definitely for sure, the first film where she was the protagonist. I remember, and there was like one scene when while the mother of Lia Seydoux would come back as a ghost. And I was like, and the idea was if Jodie Foster, that I know speaks like perfectly fluently French, appears in this very low budget first feature that no one knows, and this is Jodie Foster, everyone would just like, look at the screen and say, this is a ghost. I'm just like, I'm dreaming. It's not possible. So I tried to have her. Of course, like she didn't even like know that I tried to have her. And I didn't even know where to send the letter. But eventually, 15 years after, she was like the protagonist of my film.
And what was it about her performance, or what was the thing that really drew you to her in that moment as you're, like probably forming your own understanding and voice and structure and learning at that stage? What was it that drew you to her?
I mean, the same thing than you have with her. I mean, like we all have the same thing with Jodie Foster. I feel that is to connect profoundly as filmmakers and as spectators, but especially as women to this actress. I think that she managed something that only her managed to do in Hollywood, which is like the most imperialistic, like cinematography that we were like able to receive when we were teenagers, when I was teenagers at least, and it is to be the hero. She had the power to be the hero of the narrations. She was involved since day one almost, because like she started, as you know, as a child. And then as soon as she was like maybe 12 in the Scorsese Alice, and then in Taxi Driver, of course, she had the power like to choose and pick up the scripts. So she became eventually the only woman being like the hero of the film. That's also, so the connection was, this is insane. She's experiencing like everything, and she's the only person that looks like me. And then also, that's the reason why it was so interesting and difficult to cast her as a woman in a family, in a private life, because you never saw her being married in the film. She's never in a couple. It's always her doing like what men can do. So she doesn't have a husband. She's not the wife of anyone. And she, even in the panic room where she has a husband, the guy, the poor guy, is just kidnapped after like 5 minutes and doesn't exist. And she's just like living by herself with Kristen Stewart in this huge house. So it was an interesting challenge, to trigger like the representations of Jodie Foster herself.
And I think that that moment where you're breaking out onto the scene, and I just think there's something so interesting about, making your first feature, and then we'll jump to now to like to you working on this. But as a creative or an artist, like, were there nerves happening behind that scene? Could you ever picture where you are now at that stage? Did you have a very focused plan?
Not at all. I wish. I wish I had. It's just that no, I don't even see. I think I did like 6 features and 2 TV series right now, and I'm not sure if I answer correctly to your question. Just like correct me if I'm wrong. But it's and I feel I do not have the conception of a career. I feel that every film just responds to a necessity to address a scandal somewhere, to address like something that pisses me off, or that that I feel unfair, or that I feel, it's just that for every film, and sometimes the film is just the answer of like a very inner state of anxiety or love, or and that's the reason why characters grow up with me. I mean, obviously I'm not the same age than Jodie Foster is, but deep inside I feel so old. I feel such
I
an
think we've all
old.
aged in the past
I
10
feel
years,
such an old.
40 years.
Yes, exactly. I feel in 5 years, like I became like a menopaused woman, like 10 years before. Is it okay to say that in
Yeah.
Ireland? I mean,
That
like
makes
it's okay.
totally that makes total
It
sense
makes
because
sense. Okay.
yeah, I think, but again, I
So
think since 2016 to 26 it has been like 4 decades worth of
it's a
things.
lot.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot. I have a magnet on my fridge when you see like a very old lady and she says like, "Hey, who would say that this job makes like people feel older? I'm 27. I feel extra." She's like 100 years old. I feel this woman. I feel like this woman. But also I feel like full of energy and really wanting to address the next film. And that's the reason why even like talking to you right now, like the film has been released 1 year ago for me in Cannes in May, and we're like in July right now. And this is like amazing to have the possibility to take the film like to the feet of the spectator and the audience worldwide. And it's also like a challenge because you feel it's like in your past. So it's very interesting to do that. So to answer your question, no, I didn't have the full picture. It's just, and I wish I could capitalize the experience in a film, but you always feel that it's the beginning of something and that you're very sluttery and amateur in what you do. And then I know that maybe the only difference is the connection with actors, because in your first films, you may be frightened by the actors because you understand the tremendous power they have on your film. They can do whatever they want with your film. I mean, you can have like the best script, the best like intentions, the best DOP, and a perfect mise en scène. If the actor is not in a good mood this day, and if you cannot find the way to talk to them and to lead them like in your film, it's going to be shitty. So this huge power they have may sometimes somehow scare some directors. And I must admit that in the beginning, I may have been scared by that. And now I'm like embracing it. And the
And
more I make films and the more I like actors, for instance.
and what's your trick then? Like, do you have any kind of go-to moves that you're like, if
I
someone's
have
in
a
a
trick. No,
fowler, if
I have
someone's
an
in,
amazing trick that works for everyone. No, no, no.
yeah,
No, it's just like you have to. you have to believe them. If an actor says, I'm going to do your film and then not, believe him or her. There is a good reason for that. If an actor or an actress says something like on the set, and for instance, if the actors or the actress is not good after like 2 or 3 takes, it's because your text is not good or your position of camera is not good. I deeply believe that. But, uh, but then it's just like it's super stimulating because you need like to find the foreign language with everyone. But it's the same with your friends and lovers. It's like you have to speak like something different with everyone and to find the key. So this is like probably the scariest and the most stimulating thing like on a set. Yes.
And a private life, has that been in the drawer for a while? What was the
No.
inspiration behind the idea for that?
No, actually it's been like a pretty vivid and rapid and fast, writing and production and even like reaching Jodie Foster was like super fast with this film because I feel that it was like this fruit that is really ready to fall. And I was obsessed with a title, and I was like Private Life, which is like, as you know, the title of a film from the 60s from Louis Malle in France, Vie privée, has nothing to see with the film. It's a film with Brigitte Bardot on celebrity, super like literal, like private life, public life, which is not the same with me. But I loved the title, and I felt the title had carried a secret inside, and I didn't know why. It's just like I really wanted. Like it's been 10 years. My next film is called A Private Life, and I never had the film, and then the scriptwriter Anne Berest was like, maybe you should read that. And I've been like, coming with this character. She's a psychiatrist, and maybe the character is interesting. And the character-driven script from Anne Berest was this film. Was like it is my private life, not mine, and like which is like less interesting than Lilian Steiner one.
Yeah, I was going to say it's very
And
exciting. It's
and
very exciting.
yeah, exciting slash boring. I mean, like she's this super bourgeois woman living in Paris, like feeling like not happy with the work anymore, experiencing a crisis where everything collapses, all the certitudes she had, being a very bad therapist, being a very bad mom, which I relate to. Anyway, so and I had like so the obsession of the title and the obsession of Jodie Foster. I knew for sure that I had to invite her in a film.
And
So it was the good moment for that.
she embodies it so incredibly. And one of the things is I think the depth of the themes that really work. And I think one of the elements that it addresses in this really clever, nuanced way is anti-Semitism. And I was just thinking of Pierre as this sort of like
Mm.
kind of like a horrible character who's in her space all the time, and then like like blaming her for things, and like and all those little microaggressions that goes along with him, but also in her interactions with other people, and how it's layered in there, but like also how she handles it with quite a lot of empathy. And I was just wondering if you could just tell me about like the themes of anti-Semitism, because it's sort of it's kind of it isn't the subject matter, but it's almost like the film
Underneath, yeah.
the film is like sat on top of like a bubbling like sea of it. And I think that's the
Yeah.
thing that's really interesting and nuanced.
Yeah, don't spoil for Pierre because like
Yeah.
there's something in the film
Yeah.
for those who wants to see it.
Yeah.
It's just I would say this is funny because I have this friend in New York and she told me like, how come you take like the gayest person, like the less Jewish person, like Lilian, like Jodie Foster, to play a Jewish therapist in Paris? And she laughed so much because I would say that the film addresses less anti-Semitism than Jewishness itself, questions of guilt, repression, denial. And in that sense, the fact that Lilian Steiner is an American Jew living in Paris, that is someone who did not directly experience the extermination of European Jewry, is a part of her psychological journey, I would say. And it gives the narrative a certain coherence. It helps explain the resurfacing of memories from the period of occupation and collaboration. But, to me, this is also like a comic register at work in the film. And I would say, I mean, like, I hate anti Semitism, but I would say, like, this is like, I joke when I say that, but Pierre, for instance, is more defined by his paranoia than by a real anti-Semitism. For me, it's relatively mild for him, and he's treated almost as a it's treated almost an element of comedy. Like for a Jewish, I'm tempted to say that drawing a little swastika does not necessarily make one anti-Semitic. I'm joking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just that I feel that, this guy does that. Of course, he's a paranoid patient. Audience will see like what it leads, where it leads. It's not about being anti-Semitic, but much more being like obsessed with her therapist, his therapist in a way. And maybe, but if the film says that you should still open your door to people who draw swastika on yours, so people that lost somehow their moral bearings, and if you still open the door to them, I would. This is a sentiment I can embrace in the film.
Yeah, and it's very powerful, but it's so deft. And one of the things I'll always relate to is when she's, at the ceremony, the morning ceremony of funeral. I don't know
Yeah,
how to
the
say the proper
Shiva.
name, Shiva. And like I'll very much so relate as a kind of raised heritagely Catholic going back to these ceremonies where, people know all the prayers and they're doing all the thing, and you're just like, oh yeah, I don't have a clue what's happening. But it's yeah,
Exactly.
but it's like it's just done in all those like very clever moments and those very kind of
It's
these good.
also just part of the culture. Like to me, as a French citizen from Jewish heritage, it's super easy for me. Like for instance, the rabbi in the film is my father. I mean, my father is absolutely not a rabbi, and I'm not a religious person, and I'm an atheist. I mean, like I don't believe in God, but I'm Jewish cultural heritage. So, and he speaks like Hebrew and Yiddish, and sometimes I just ask him, like he's really cheap and always available for my films, and he's like playing the rabbi. So there's something like also that deals with my inner memories and the prayers that has been like around me since I'm a child. I mean, like I lost my mom when when I was a child, and as an orphan of mom, there's like something that is deeply connected to my idea of cinema. To me, the fact that all those characters are Jewish in the film doesn't address anything about anti-Semitism or whatever, because we would have a lot to say, and maybe one day I will do that film or just address that question or that topic. It's just this is like a small part of this culture that I really cherish, which is humor. And I feel that the starting plot of the film, the idea of a therapist bursting into cries, bursting into tears when
Yeah.
you tell them your stories, is just the starting point of a fucking Jewish joke. So this is it. It's very like, small in the film. I hope it's not like, too much in the film. And I hope that people understand like the funny aspect of it, and also like the circulation of denial, repressed desire, guilt that is like connected also to this religion. So this is like a melting pot of like funny things for movies
Yeah, I'd say
that are
Irish
and
people have no
that are
connection to that at all, to the humor, to the guilt, to the repression. Nothing. There's nothing similar there. Oops.
you know what?
Yeah.
I can't wait to be, it will be my first time in Ireland. I can't
Oh,
believe that I'm coming, and this is like it's going to be my first time. I mean, I just like read, of course, like you're amazing like writers and not, I mean, like you're a country of heroes for me, and I can't wait to come.
oh, well, we look forward to welcoming you. I totally want to go back to this because I know we've limited time, and I'm going to
Yeah,
dig
yeah, yeah.
into as
Sorry,
much
I'm
as
just
I
like
can.
doing
I know,
tourism.
and we
I'm
will.
sorry.
I'll give you my top tips. I'll email them on because there's like of the tourist
You have
things to hit.
nice restaurants. Like, I'm
Oh,
sorry. I apologize for your audience. I'm so like, random. I'm,
oh,
I'm sorry.
oh, we're delighted. We're delighted to have you. We have very good Michelin rated restaurants. I'll send on a list that I record. Anyway, but what I find that just again all those gleaming moments that I described, and
Mm,
when you said the crying, like I was just laughing because like she's like my face is leaking. What I just can't cognitively process like that I have emotion in this moment, which is just so kind of darkly comedic and the
mm.
depth of the relationships and again her relationship with her son, it's all there, but it's brilliant. And you said this was plucked, and I was wondering if you could just tell me about the writing process. In It was the idea, it was based on the name, but in terms of like getting it onto the page, were there any areas that you struggled with? Did it change from first concept to that final shooting draft?
Mm. Yes, probably. I think that the main aspect of the script I've been struggling with was the past lives. because there's definitely like, an invigorating and stimulating conversation with my scriptwriter, Anne Berest, who's also a novelist. Because, I mean, when I say also, I'm not, I mean, like she's mostly, and she's first a novelist, then she's a scriptwriter. And I think that she feels cinema is this like playful field for people that needs money, and that the real deal is like writing novels. And she's also very into esotericism and stuff. And we know each other like since we're 18 years old. I'm sorry to say a lot, because but I feel that the process of writing is deeply connected to our friendship as well, which is like a real pleasure for me to mention. And she's like totally involved in those like past lives, and a resurfacing like memories and stuff, and reliving lives. And I would be, while writing the script, I was like, oh, this is so funny. I like it. This is like so bullshit. And she was like, what do you mean? She totally believed in it. And I was like, okay, so she's crazy, but it's going to be interesting, because like we still need to, work this frontière, and this like believing process that this is something that is fiction, but I really want people like to believe the fiction, and this artifice plus artifice may lead to truth and to something deeper. And for instance, I remember that I needed like the scene of the past memories. And without saying too much, like for the audience, I know that the fact that it's a kind of stage that they are in the past, a kind of theater that is like a musical place, an orchestra, is not only because I was a cellist before, so it was like easier for me to ask Jodie Foster to play the cello, which by the way, she's really annoying, because like in 10 minutes she could play it,
Sorry,
she
she
could
can
really
just.
like,
And how good
yeah,
was her
she's like,
French? Like, how did this? This is
I don't
all
know,
like Jodie. She
it's
just.
insane. It's insane. It's weird the way she speaks French. I had like to change the way she speaks French so people could understand that she's not a French person. I added some curses like merde, shit, fuck, because if not, if she curse in French, we were like, okay, so the girl is French. It's not the character. And I was like, you need to have an accent a bit, Jodie, and she would not have. I think it's connected, like she would explain much more, like better than I would. But I think it's connected to the fact that her mom was obsessed with French language. And so she decided like to find a place where she could like be better than her mom and be like in a very solitary position. Also, when you're so famous at such an early age, I would feel that she needs a continent for herself, a country that is a place where she feels safe. And I feel that French, somehow, I would not feel safe in France, but somehow French became her safe place. So it's interesting. She speaks that. She plays the cello, and so yeah, the most like challenging part was to believe in those hypnotic moments, those past lives, and the plastic, challenge for it. The way, for instance, Hitchcock, proceeded like with Salvador Dali for the Dr. Edward's house, Spellbound. In Spellbound, I really wanted to have like a conversation with other artists to depict that. So the reason why AI entered in a way in the process of the film. So that's the reason why I don't know. I really dived into a very plastic moment in the film. It's just a door that you can open or not, but I loved doing that. This was like the challenge of the film. Yeah.
Very interesting because it's just as fresh and unexpected, and every turn and every interaction as you're watching it is. Was this, I presume this was written with her in mind that you'd always like, when did she exactly come on board? Did that, and
Berest
did you have a
or
backup
Jodie?
plan? Jodie, sorry, Jodie, yeah, yeah.
I mean, actually, I wrote it for her. So I was like, this is pretty dangerous to that. Don't do that. Never do that. Because when you do that, usually the actors or actress is like, it's not for me. And then you don't have any film anymore. Because you cannot address the film to someone else if you really, really thought sorrowfully of someone while writing it. But in this case, I deeply think that it was a, I mean, it was just a good, she jumped aboard after like maybe the first version of the draft. I was like, if she doesn't like that draft, she will never like the film. So let's win sometimes, let's spare times. And I wrote like very, anonymely, I would say, to her agent, being like, does it make sense to have like a film in France right now? Is there a problem with Jodie and French? Because we know she speaks, as you saw her speaking French, she speaks fluent French. We all the French people, all the cinephiles in France know that. And she never did like a film in France, like maybe since like 50 years. What the fuck is happening? Do we lack of imagination, or does he hate us and not want at all like to play? And I think it was just like it was the good moment, the good timing for her. And the agent said like, this is a good moment for that. Yes, why not? Just hit me, send me the script. I sent it to her. And then after like maybe one or two Zooms, I knew she would do it. She was like liking the script, and she didn't want to rewrite it as well, because she's not only an actress, she's also a producer and a director. And so honestly, if she'd say, I like it, but you know what, let's just rewrite it a bit and blah, blah, and stuff, I would have said yes. But she did not. It's funny because I think that 1 year after, I'm still not recovering from her yes. I feel like this fangirl being like, yes, I don't even know why she did. I'm more interested into what's the reason that led her to say yes than my
Well,
own desire.
it's very well written.
Did you meet her?
No, 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 not yet. I was like, it's very well written. I would argue there's not as that. I'm sure there are great scripts, but like it is just an
Mm,
incredibly meaty, interesting character to play, a role to play, a world to inhabit. And
thank you very much. She had fun doing that with
and
Daniel Auteuil as well, the couple. Anyway,
yeah, with the, like there was real chemistry. Like one of the descriptors were like it was quite sexy between them and how they
huge
interacted.
chemistry.
Like it was really
I
like
know,
yeah, and it
I
was
know.
warm. Like so, yeah, I was like at points I was like, thank God I'm not watching this with my mom. I'd be so embarrassed. Like,
I know there's like an elevator scene. No, it's fine. I must like reassure everyone. It's not like an
no,
X.
no,
It's not a blue movie.
no,
It's
no.
just
It's
that, yes, there's a
yeah,
little bit of ass. I mean, and I think it's okay. I think
yeah.
it's exactly, and I've been like surprised because like sometimes in certain countries, people are like, this is so interesting to have like a woman of this age having still like sexuality. And I'm like, oh, fuck, it's going to be like very sad the next 20 years because it's still like a surprise for people that, a woman in her 60s still have a sexuality. And I think it's not that often depicted maybe in films. But the chemistry between Daniel Auteuil and Jodie Foster was definitely like just the lucky part of the film. This is something that you cannot comment. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And those two literally got along, and they knew each other. They knew the continent of their filmographies from a long time because Daniel Auteuil is famous for Jodie. And of course, obviously, Jodie is famous for Daniel. So they would know the body of each other. They would know the faces of each other, like through cinema. And the idea of an old couple was right there because they
Yeah,
knew each other and were strangers now. So interesting
that's
and
fabulous.
funny to do.
And then finally, what would
Mm.
you hope people get from the film if there's a takeaway?
Mm. It's a very good question. I would say pleasure. I would say pleasure because this is like definitely something that I was seeking for during the film. And it's connected. This is my very like Jewish Ashkenazi part. It's connected to the fact that everything is so fucked up right now that if you seek for pleasure and meaning in a film and you can catch it, like um, you have exactly what I wanted to address in the film.
Brilliant. And they will. They definitely will. Well, thank you so
Thank you
much for
very
chatting
much.
with us. I hope you have a lovely trip over and enjoy it. And I hope you get like
Cannot wait.
decent weather. That's the main thing.
Can't
Thanks so
wait.
much.
I'll be there. Ciao, ciao. Thank you.
Bye.